What originally inspired this great video that you all are about to witness is the previous video I did here on Rahu and Ketu. And it's this one here, Flat Earth Observation, Sun, Moon, Stars, and Nibiru. Check that out if you haven't checked it out already, because what I'm about to go into now, I'm going to be driving home a few things in reference to this video. Now here's a post from my good friend Sujoy Kabiraj. Shout out to Sujoy and all of my friends in India. Appreciate you guys because you always feed me top-notch information that we just don't get here in America, and it really sends my research down in areas that average YouTubers just don't have access to. So again, let me give a shout out to my Nigerian friends, my European UK friends as well. So here's a comment from my good friend Sujoy. It says, there are 2 suns and 2 moons in Jambu Deep according to ancient Indian texts. Remember the flat earth. We call it as Jyotish Lok, where the moons and stars and sun circling the Mount Meru above the flat earth. That means there are 2 Rahus and 2 Ketus. Moon is the head of the stars family, not the sun. But these 2 suns and 2 moons can't crash with each other, just like the news channel shows that 2 suns together or 2 moons together. It may be possible that the reflection of the moon and sun reflect on those 2, Rahu and Ketu. Listen guys, I want to stop right here and build for a minute right where we at. What I'm understanding from this comment is that when we see an eclipse, what we may be actually witnessing also is the merging of 2 bodies. Maybe these 2 bodies are literally going through each other, similar to the way we say spirits behave. So I look at these luminaries as light beings, as spiritual beings, and if they are indeed simply composed of light, then they would be able to go right through each other and cause these eclipses. This is just another hypothesis, but again, that's an awesome revelation, something to think about, that these bodies never crash into each other during the eclipse, and we're not sure if they're on the same exact plane or not. It's just something to think about, you know, because they have this earth diagram that they had up for a long time, which was deception. And a lot of people was using the MasterCard logo to say that the earth was merging with the 5th dimension. But as you can see here in these first pictures, all we have is more CGI fairy tale illustrations to keep people waiting on a fairy tale earth that'll never get here. The truth about this thing that's been corrupted with this pseudoscience is that it represents the eclipse. Every time an eclipse happens, quote unquote, dimensions merge, the underworld, mid-realm, and heavens above, and the black hole sun is exposed. The moon and sun are not solid, so when they merge, you see the psalm, which is the black hole sun. That's the psalm of this merge. And during this time, it's a time of renewal and a time where we do many moon goddess rituals, but they got people waiting on new earths, wasting all of this energy because we aren't aware of nature and our reality, and we're so caught up in the pseudoscience. Spew terms out in the conscious community, but now I'm bringing you the reality of these terms. Once you realize we're on a flat earth, these terms become a reality, and everything we talk about becomes here and now, and not somewhere in space that we're waiting on. So the earth merging from 3D to 5D is your understanding. You can exist in the 5D realm right now if you can perceive it. In other words, their matrix is to get you always caught up into believing you gotta wait on something to become your greater version, when you can do it now. And there's always times of renewal that we miss out on because they hide these events that connects us with nature. Even when you say event, the root word of it is even or eve, going back to balance. We all don't perceive reality the same. There are some gurus who are perceiving reality on many different dimensions, quote unquote, than you are, based on your limitations that come from your foolish beliefs in pseudoscience. Something very important that I want you to lock in your mind. Sue Joyce said that the moon is the head of the stars family, not the sun. Keep that in mind because we're going to be bringing that up a lot in this video, and that is very important. That line is basically the foundation of 75% of this video, okay? The moon is the head of the stars family, not the sun. And remember that the moon is Ketu. Real quick, I just want to point out something that I'm going to go in on in a future video very deep. I just want to plug it in right here for reference sake. When Sue Joyce said that the moon is the head of the night and the star family, not the sun, what Sue Joyce is telling you is that when you go to early cosmology, you will see that the moon gave birth to the sun. But in Western science, they teach you the opposite, that the sun gave birth. The moon is the mother, and that's where you get the word monarch or monarchy from. It means the moon arc, and you see the moon goddesses with the crescent moon. You see the Venus of Waldorf, which is one of the oldest mother goddess figurines, holding what they say is a bitten watermelon or a bitten apple, which is really the crescent moon. And I'm going to get into that real deep in the future video. I'm just plugging it here. But basically, the moon is up higher than the sun. The sun is closer to us than the moon. The sun is a projection of the moon. The sun light comes from its central black hole. The picture you're looking at now is just when they did Stephen Hawking's birthday balloon release. They went up real high and they panned the camera toward the sun. And when they did that, it gave us a rare glimpse of the central black hole sun that's in the center of our sun. A lot of pseudoscientists call this the Stargate. You could call it whatever you want to call it, but they don't have the proper mythology associated with this that was given by the ancestors. Therefore, they're still taking what the elite want us to believe this is. If you look real close in the middle of the sun on this picture, you can see a small black dot. And every now and then we can get a glimpse of this central black hole sun that's in the middle of our sun. And all you got to do is do a little searching around and you can see this. But you could take a few pictures yourself with the certain lens and it will expose that black central sun in the middle of our sun. Just like you have a heart in the middle of your body that's emanating all life. Basically, your heart is projecting you out. What I mean by that is your heart is pumping the blood out through your body in all directions. And if you remove the heart, the body ceases to function. The heart is in the center of the body, and basically all life emanates from the heart. And when you look at that black dot in the middle of the sun, you can say that all of its light is emanating from that darkness. Again, all light emanates from the darkness. Light and darkness are not equal to each other, and they're not opposites of each other. Darkness is the source of all light. Just like when you close your eyes to come up with a new idea or a new invention, you had to bring forth that new thought out of the darkness. That is the creative realm. So just like when it's daytime outside, you know, if you was to get in a rocket or a ship and go all the way up, once you go above the sun, it'll start getting nighttime again. What does this tell us? This tells us that the night sits behind the day. Just like when a child is born and a mother looks down at her newborn baby, this is the way the night or the darkness looks down upon the light which she created. So when you look at the Bible and it says, in the beginning it was darkness, then it was let there be light. Picture yourself as being the darkness. Now picture yourself creating light. There will never be a time where light will look down upon darkness. In other words, there'll never be a time where a newborn son can look down upon his mother as a newborn in the same way his mother first looked at him. She observed him in his most infant stage. Soon as he came into this realm, into physical being, and came out of the womb, the first person in life to look down upon him in a godlike manner was his mama. So think of it this way. An artist paints art upon a canvas, but the art that's on that canvas will never be able to have the artist's view. Okay? So all things come from darkness, and the foundation of everything you see is just simply the same thing you see every night when you close your eyes. We can't escape it. Okay? Because that's what we come from. That's pure consciousness. That's the mother. I just find it also strange that women also sleep more than men, and they're more intuitive than men, and they're more serious about you not disturbing their sleep. Like men fight sleep. I was looking at the movie Malcolm X, and his wife had to beg him to come to bed, you know, because we're that light energy, man. We are the ones who stay up. We fight against the night. We shine in the daytime because we're builders. But the women rule the night. At night, they would tell the stories and pass down the history and give us startling revelations and teach us through the night sky and the stars. So we left that golden age. And if men sleep too much, they say that we lazy. But when a woman sleep too much, they call it beauty sleep. So we just got to start seeing all of the things we do and say in our society and just tie them in. Darkness can exist without light, but light can't exist without darkness. Okay? So it goes back to the divine feminine. Women can exist without men, but men can't exist without women. The Immaculate Conception is real, and I'll be going into that in future videos, how men were created. As above, so below. I'm showing you how this relates to cosmology. The darkness is where everything emanates from. Even light can't escape the darkness. So there's a central black hole at the center of everything where all emanates from. And that's why all your life they want to get us afraid of the dark. They want to link all of this divine feminine and dark stuff to witches and, you know, oracles and different women who scary, you know, and that's all to desecrate this stuff and keep you away from it. But we know behind closed doors, they have divine feminine worship at the Vatican. Even in your cult practices, it all goes back to divine feminine moon energy rituals. And this is what they're hiding from you guys, why they got y'all worshiping the sun. Now, I love the sun, but the hidden one that our ancestors spoke of is that central black hole you see there. That is the life force behind the sun. So when you stop being blinded by the sun rays, then you get to the central source, the energy behind it all, and the mysteries are revealed. So I love the sun and all of its brilliant light. But man, I understand the hidden one, which is that black hole, mother, the dark one that's all life emanates from. Okay, so I hope you guys get a better understanding here. Again, this is a quick rant, and this video here is just an intro. I'm going to go in real deep on this in the future, so let's move on. All light emanates from darkness. Darkness is the source of light. That's why in the Bible, the first thing was darkness, and then came the light. So when a mother looks down at her child, this is how the darkness looked down at the light that she created, which is her son. So that blackness was the cosmic womb, but the Bible didn't tell you that. That blackness in the beginning was the mother. That was zero. That was the X. They said that represents the unknown. That's the place where consciousness break down and you just got pure consciousness and creativity. That's where all things manifest from. So I just wanted to plug that here because when you read Vedic cosmology, you would understand that the moon actually brings the night in. In other words, the stars in the sky is the tail of the moon. The moon is the head of the night, and it drags along its star trail. So when you look at Rahu and Ketu, you will see that Rahu in Vedic astronomy is the sun, and this is the deity with a head but don't have a body. And that's like in the daytime, you see our sun is very bright and it dominates. I mean, it gives us a beautiful bright day, but it don't have any stars with it though. So the sun is like that deity that have a head, but it don't got a body. But when you flip on over to Ketu, which is the ruler of night, you see in Vedic astronomy that Ketu don't have a head, but Ketu has a body, which is like a tail, a Nagini tail. And that's because the moon don't have a head. The ancestors is telling you that the moon may not be brighter than the sun. We know that the moon don't shine bright as the sun, but the moon got something the sun don't got. The moon has all of the stars that it carries with it. So it balances out. The sun don't got a body, but it's brighter than the moon. The moon don't got a head, but it got a body. It got all of its tail. It has a tail of stars that it dragged with it. I said all that to say this. The moon is linked to the feminine and it drags along a star trail. And when you look at Ketu, Ketu has no head because the moon has no bright light, but it has a star tail, a body, a trail of stars. And you see this tail on Ketu. Now I'm about to blow your mind and show you how this tie in with the divine feminine. When women get married, they wear a veil over their face because Ketu has no head. And what comes on the wedding dress is a long tail. The women wear the wedding dress with the long tail because when a man and woman get married, that's Rahu and Ketu. We're acting out Vedic astronomy in our marriage ritual, and they're not telling us. The woman come now and she's dragging the stars with her. That wedding dress is symbolic of the moon dragging behind its star trail. Think about it. They said that the moon has a star trail, and they said that the end of this wedding dress is a tail. It's one word away from being the same damn word, trail and tail. It's the same thing. You see that the groom come in and he don't have nothing over his face. His face is fully exposed, but he don't have no long ass tail on his tuxedo. That's feminine. You never see a man walking around with a long ass shirt tail dragging it like you see on these feminine dresses. Think about it. You got transsexuals, they call them drag queens. Why do they call them drag queens? Because they wear them dresses that drag the bottom portion behind on the ground, like the wedding dresses. That's why they call drag queens. This whole thing about the dragon. All right, the moon is that one that drags the stars with it. And it's the head of the night, just like Sue Joy said. So when you see the woman with the veil over her face, with the wedding dress on, she's symbolizing that night energy, that moon energy. And you will see a lot of moon goddesses and night goddesses with a hood or something over their head, and they'll have on this tail type dress symbolizing Ketu. This is deep stuff because the moon gave birth to the sun. The darkness gave birth to the day. The night gave birth to the day. I wanted to plug this in, but I want to move on with this. Don't worry about it. Everything I just said here, I'm going to go in real deep on, and I'm going to show you slides of what I'm talking about, and we're going to crank it up. This is just an introduction. So let's move on. So where we left off in the comment, we're going to read on. It said, who knows, maybe we need more research, but there is no dome. The dome was an old deception just like the globe earth according to the modern time. The middle of Devlok and the rock is as you see in this picture, and we're going to look at that picture in a minute. But basically, I want to just speak upon the dome. But basically, I just want to talk about the dome very briefly because this video is not about the firmament. I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. Do I believe in a firmament dome? Right now, I do believe that we are enclosed in a dome. I do believe Earth is a terrarium and it's a beautiful enclosed system. However, I do often flirt with the possibility that there is no dome. I do often accept that idea. A lot of flat earthers believe in a dome. A lot of us don't. Again, I agree with you, Sujo, when you say it needs more research. Are we in a dome or are we not? It's just something interesting. I think as we explore more, we can come to a concrete conclusion in the future. But until then, we'll probably be back and forth on whether the dome exists or not. But stay tuned for my future video on the firmament. Okay, we're going to look at this picture because according to this picture, Sujoy says that we live at the middle. And Sujoy also follows me on Twitter. And Sujoy sends me a lot of information that we just don't get here in the Americas. But to read on, Sujoy says that the Middle Earth is where we reside. And I told you guys, even in Norse cosmology, they call it Midgard. And that's also a reason why humans are called mediums, because of where we reside in the cosmos. And we really need to understand where we reside and understand ancient cosmology. Even if you're a globe earth person looking at this video, it won't hurt you to just explore and learn about ancient cosmology and understand and try to view the world the way they viewed the world, to see and understand some of their texts and exactly what they was explaining, because a lot of people that's globe heads are misinterpreting the scriptures because the cosmology is rooted in deception. This is why so many pastors and so many Muslim ministers can have one book, but so many denominations and so many interpretations, because the cosmology is vague, and the not to mention that the text has been tampered with by deceivers. The Rahu and Ketu, according to our Vedic text, remind us of the birth, death, and rebirth. There are more truth waiting for us. Love this video, bro Sanchez. Love of the great mother. Love of the great mother. And we know that in India, they have a great, great love of the great mother, unlike America. You notice that there are no big talk about secret societies in India, because in America, in order for you to join a secret society, you have to have belief in a God. You have to have belief in a God. This doesn't say anything about a goddess, all right? I don't know any Masons that believe in a goddess. I'm not sure they'll accept you if you believe in a goddess. When you go over to India, you see that these guys are into yoga. They're spending their whole lives into spirituality. And again, you don't see a lot of Masonic and secret societies in India where the great mother is prevailing, because in order for you to join these societies, you have to believe in a God, a patriarchal God. So I have so much respect for my brothers and sisters in India, and I will be getting into matriarchal sciences deeper in future videos to show y'all the importance of the great mother. I just want to read my response so that you understand the slides later. So basically my response, because after I made this video, I actually watched it myself. And when I was watching it, a lot of new ideas and inspiration was coming to me, but I didn't think nothing of it. I was just pleased with the video. And as I went to sleep that night, I just couldn't sleep again. The thoughts was just coming in my head, and stuff was just coming to me about Rahu and Ketu and eclipses and the moon and the sun. And a lot of the things that were coming to me in my sleep, I'm going to share with you guys and blow you away. But I was basically thinking of everything Sue Joy said in this comment up here before I read it. I woke up the next day, as you can see, Sue Joy had posted this comment 2 days ago. I don't know if you can see it. It says 2 days ago. And then I woke up the next day because it says 1 day ago. And I was amazed when I read Sue Joy's comment, because I fell asleep that night and I was thinking about birth, death, and rebirth in relation to Rahu and Ketu and the eclipse. When I was rewatching the video and just looking at how beautiful the eclipse was, that was the thought that came in my mind, birth, death, and rebirth. And I was thinking that maybe this has something to do with the journey of our souls. So earlier I told you to keep in mind that one thing Sue Joy said is that the moon is the head of the stars. And that was one thing when I was falling asleep that night. I was thinking about the moon, because the moon is something I'm very interested in. There's a lot of mysteries to it that have been revealing a lot of secrets to me. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm very balanced. I love the sun, okay? We thank the creator for the sun as well. But the moon is something we've been neglecting most of our lives in this sun worshiping society. That's why I spend a lot of time talking about it on this channel, because most of the goddesses and deities associated with the moon reveal a lot about the primordial creator. Remember, in the beginning was darkness. The darkness existed before the light. In any religious text, you start off with night energy, and that goes back to the moon, okay? And the moon is dealing with the mother. The darkness is the cosmic womb. In the darkness of a womb comes the creation of life. Darkness is feminine. Male or masculinity is represented by light. Understand that light is a sustainer, and light shines in a linear passion, in a linear form. whereas darkness has no form. Darkness just absorbs, just like a womb does, just like a earth absorbs a seed. As above, so below, just like the eggs in a woman absorbs the sperm, which is basically the light spark. She's already come here with all of her eggs, which is the cosmos, all right, which is the consciousness. Remember that the CO root, when we talk co, okay, we're talking about something in cooperation, the duality that brought forth the Trinity. In other words, the X chromosome itself is a balance in scales, is a Trinity, because what you have is two V's that connect to make a dot, just like you have two wings connected to that bird, which symbolizes the Trinity. And we're going to get into this concept deeper in the video. But basically, the 0 represents the woman, the 1 represents the man. The 1 is Neo, the masculine. The 0 is the egg, the yoni, the cosmic womb. And it comes before the 1, people. The 0 is the first even number that they want you to ignore. That's why they start your numbers off with 1. The first number, which is not even a number, and remember when you say number, you're saying number. Going back to the sky goddess Nut, the act of counting come from the stars, because those were the first digits that we referenced and gave some sort of sound to reference them to and identify. That gave us numbers by looking up at Nut, but I'll get into that in a future video. So each number can correspond to like each musical note and each color in the color spectrum. And there are even some we're yet to discover based on our levels of perception. Everything will evolve to a higher state, and new colors will be able to perceive, and new musical notes as we evolve toward our greater self. But the one thing I want to point out is that every color comes from darkness, just like every sound comes from silence. And that is the background when we go back to the mother. In the beginning was the woman. And this goes back to your immaculate conception. Even before if you want to talk about matter, you're saying mother. Okay, you can't escape matter or mother. All things are composed of matter, even spirit or even soul is composed of matter. You can't escape matter, okay? Everything is made of matter. There's no spirit realm that exists. There's no anti-matter, so to speak, okay? When you talk about nothingness, nothingness is actually composed of something. Our concept of 0 as nothing has to change. 0 represents all there is, because 0 goes into every number and every number goes into 0. It starts and finishes the beginning and the end, okay? It actually, when you draw a 0, you're drawing everything there is. You're drawing a circle of life. You're basically drawing what happens when you go to a tesseract. If you take a triangle and keep spinning it until you get to form a tesseract, you will find out that in sacred geometry, the final thing that you can roll those angles into is just a circle. That's 360. The 0 is equivalent to the X, and they both represent the unknown, and they both are symbolic to Lilith and the black hole sun. Whenever you draw a 0, remember that the outline of the 0 and the middle of the 0 is two separate things. When you look at a 0, you're actually looking at the eclipse. You're actually looking at the black hole sun devouring either the moon or the sun, because as Sue Joy said, the moon and sun both have one. So this is the balance of the mother. The mother in ancient texts and ancient mythology is always depicted black. And as we get deep into this video and hop over to the slides, I'm going to show y'all about witches and the darkness and all of the scary stuff that's related to the female, and even the wedding dress and everything, and the divine feminine, and just the holiness and reverence of the darkness, and why darkness is considered evil today. So this video is going to open you up to a lot of desecration, because a lot of reason everything is flipped. All of the bad stuff is really good. When you talk about witches and evil and darkness, that's the stuff you want to embrace. That's the mother. That's going back to the womb which you came from, darkness, which we all go back to. Okay, so when you see an eclipse, it's reminding you of that yin yang. When you see an eclipse, that's nature's way of showing you the serpent in the middle. So when you think of the sun and moon, you think of yin and yang. But when you think of the black hole sun, you think of the S that splits the yin and yang. You think of the S in the middle of the yin and the yang. And in case you guys didn't know, the alphabet S originates from the serpent. The alphabet S comes from the serpent, the way the serpent shape and the sound that the snake make when it hisses. When we say shh to keep silent, you're doing symbolic cosmology. The hand that splits the lip, shh, is the serpent. Remember, the serpent is in the middle of the tree, and the trunk of the tree splits the tree equally, just like Ma'at balances the scales. So this is when we say shh, the hand is placed in the center of the lips to split that tree, just like the serpent. Even when you say shh, you're really saying shh. And remember, I told you that the darkness represents the silence, just like all sounds come from silence and all colors come from darkness. So it's the primordial source behind all there is. And when we say shh, we represent that silence and that darkness and that serpent that represents. Remember, that serpent is that dragon, the devil. They want to get you scared of death and scared of the darkness. The devil is really the diva, the mother goddess. This is the secret, because the serpent is the present. When you rearrange the word serpent, you get the word present, because the serpent is in the middle. And remember, the present is in the middle of the past and future, just like the serpent is in the middle of the yin and yang. And it all symbolizes balance. The woman symbolizes balance. She is the embodiment of balance. That's why when you go back to Egypt, you only see Ma'at balancing the scales. You will never see a male balancing the scales. It won't even look right. You always see the angel Ma'at with those wings balancing the scales. And it goes back into the dove, because why is Ma'at an angel? Okay, because angels of light are angels of light, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. She represents the triangle, which is the Trinity angel. The triangle is sacred geometry. That's all the balance and scales is. It's the triangle, which is a very balanced symbol. So you're talking about the number 3, which is Trinity, but you're talking about Eve, EVE. But like I said, the first even number is the 0, the egg. And this goes back to the reverence of the scarab beetle in ancient Egypt, where we see with the cosmic egg holding it up in the touchdown or conunga. position, just like the mother goddess come with the hands raised of victory, which became the Greek goddess Nike. Because when you look at the Nike symbol, it's a check, which originates from the Egyptian goddess Serket, which was a scorpion. And when you saw Serket, she had her tail hooked, just like the Nike sign. And this all goes back to that black, that darkness, that dark scorpion, that sting, that queen bee. All right, when you get caught up in her grasp, because that snake, that viper will bite you. And when you look at NASA logo, you're looking at that snake. Keep that snake in mind, because in the tree of life, it was the snake wrapped around that tree that gave us the balance. When you say good and evil, you're just saying up and down, left, right. It's balance, sun, moon. Good and evil are concepts. But to make a long story short, skipping back to the yin yang with the S in the middle and the black hole sun, when you look at the MasterCard logo, you're looking at the yin yang symbol. Okay, when you go ahead and squish that MasterCard logo all the way together, you get the eclipse when the black hole sun is fully engulfed in either the sun or the moon, and it's a diamond ring effect now. But when you get that, that is the complete yin yang. And when that diamond ring is shining, it's like the serpent revealing itself. So when you look at the MasterCard sign and they're not connected, you will notice it makes a yoni. Even then, you're seeing the first part of the black hole sun creeping into there. Because when these things merge, this is life. Just like I told you, the X itself, the X chromosome, is a divine symbol. The X is the unknown, it's the zero. And it's just two V's or two vortexes. The V is the vagina. I went over that in the previous video. When you take the duality, when you double these things, when you say duality, dos, you're talking about two. Mu, multiplication. Mu is Hathor. And I'm going to show you how that tie into the act of multiplying. But when you multiply, you double it up, or you double it up, you do it. Nike says just do it. And that goes back to as above, so below. As above, so below is the act of duality. Yin, yang, reversing things. When you look at the Kananga, it mirrors itself on each side. When you look at the 6-point star, it's a triangle pointed up, triangle pointed down. You bring them together, what you get, a hex in the middle. Because when these dualities marry themselves, they always create a new child or something new. It gives birth. This is why the darkness is associated with creativity, because you close your eyes. And when your eyelids marry your eyeball, you get darkness. And from that darkness comes some of the greatest thoughts. From that darkness, what happens? What they tell you, bing, a light bulb comes on, and that's a new invention. That's a new thought. That's a new song. Everything that exists in matter comes from darkness. Everything you see comes from the black thoughts of someone's mind before you can even touch it. And that dark realm is actually made out of matter. Okay, that darkness is a force. That to say darkness in the spiritual realm is antimatter or exists in a realm that's void of matter is like saying wind exists in a separate realm of us. That dark realm actually makes up this realm. And to make up this realm, it has to be matter. Remember that the root word of matter is ma, just like ma'at, because she is the maker or the maker of all things. When you say make, the root word of make is ma. So when we talk about creation, that goes into, and we're going to get into etymology here too, because creation, that root word CRE, this actual CRE root comes from the ancient Crete, and that's where your Minoan bee goddess come from. But this is where we get a lot of mythology and a lot of the etymology from Crete, and I'll be going into that. But basically the main etymology of CRE is dealing with creation or Crete. And when you look it up, you'll see that it's from Latin creatus, past participle of cre, and it means to bring forth or to produce, to beget. And it's related to crescer, arise or grow. And the synonym for create, how about this one? It's crescent. And what's so important about the crescent? The crescent is the alphabet C, and it's the arch. See how powerful this is? It's the original angle. It's the same as the V. The V and the C are the same, and they rhyme. Remember, when we dealing with sound, rhythm is everything. The C and the V are the same. They're just both arches. And when you stick both of them C's together, you get the yoni or the vesica Pisces. And when you stick both of them V's together, you get the X or the hourglass, 8 for infinity. It all is the same thing. But basically, the reason cre and create is the same as crescent, because crescent can be a verb as well. When you go back to ancient etymology and the meaning of all these things, remember the crescent is the crescent. It's just a C or an arch. Then when you do your etymology on crescent, and remember we dealing with the mother goddess and the moon, if you do your etymology on crescent, it's from the late 14th century, dealing with a crescent-shaped ornament from the French croissant, again like the bread. And as you read on, you will see that the present participle of crescer, meaning come forth, spring up, grow, thrive, swell, increase in numbers or strength, from the pi root ker, to grow. Ceres, goddess of agriculture. Cre, to bring forth, create, produce. So when we dealing with CRE, you can also see why we have the word creed, because the act of creating is a covenant within itself. Once you make something, the only way you can take it out of existence is to destroy it. So you break the covenant when you break that which you created it. So that's why anything created can be broken. You can break it like a promise or a covenant, because the act of creating is a creed all in itself. Because when we talk about Cre or Crete, we're talking about a bond, something that's concrete. But you can see how this all relate to the act of creation when we talk about the cosmos and the great mother, when we deal with the arch and the promise and the creation. Even today, everything you create is a creed, it's a covenant. And like I said, when we say covenant, that's the coven ant. And if you look up the definition of a coven, you can see that it's a group of 3 witches. All right. And this where they desecrating it at, because it's really the triple goddesses. But I'm going to go into that in a future video. Creature, koros, kor. It also means girl. The Armenian serum, meaning to bring forth or be born. Applied in Latin to the waxing moon, lunar crescents. The original Latin sense is preserved in crescendo. Remember, crescendo is dealing with the knights and the bravery. Remember that the shield is the bee goddess. It's the coat of arms, because you can't cast a tent without Ma'at spreading her wings. You see, in today's world, we know that wings and horns are dealing with deification in mythology. For example, the devil have horns and the angels have wings. But both of these deities are good. They represent each side of the scale. And what you will notice is when you look at the bee goddess's wings here, they can be the same as the horns of the devil, because each horn is a crescent or C. And each wings of the bee goddess is a crescent or a C, as you can see here. And if you think of that MasterCard symbol, think about each C makes a yoni, just like each wing here is in the middle of our bee goddess. And remember that the V and the C are the same. Both of the V's make the X, both of the C's make the yoni. If you stick 2 S's together, they would make the figure 8. We can't escape the mother when we deal with this sacred geometry. If you look at how each wing is in the middle of the bee goddess, and you will see in a lot of the moon goddesses, they would be having each of their elk horns sticking out, making a V. But you see each of these wings is a C or a crescent. So again, the C and the V is just dealing with angles or angels. Okay, because all of these goddesses are angels, Ma'at, and when we deal with wings, we're dealing with horns. Okay, and I will do more videos to tie all of this stuff in, but if you remember the pattern, you can't mess it up. Everything is sacred geometry. That's how I don't get why people say the English alphabet we don't need and we need to do away with it. For one thing, we speak English, so we must decode it to decode everything else. And for another thing, when you look at the English alphabet, you're looking at sacred geometry. The W shaped like what? The wings. It's shaped like the triple V for victory. That's your goddess portal. So when you get your W, you're looking at your wings. And when you flip it around, you get the M for mother. All of these sacred numbers, I can tie them in and show you how they tie in a sacred geometry with your numbers and your alphabets. The significance of the C is the fact that it's the arch. And when you say C, you're talking about the ocean. You're talking about something you do with your eyes. And if you don't do that right, everything gets distorted. So why is the C is the arch? Because the arch is the dome. You can't even see right if your dome ain't right. If your brain ain't right, it don't matter if you can see good. You're going to distort and misinterpret your reality. So the C is very important. And if you put 2 C's back to back, you get the Kananga or the X. If you turn them face to face, you get the 360 for life. So no matter how you put them, you're going to get the end all and be all of Alpha and Omega. The same with the V. Remember, the V is the vagina. When you turn them back to back, you get the X. When you turn them face to face, you get the yoni or the diamond. So I'll be showing y'all how to do this same stuff, sacred geometry with your alphabets, your numbers, and your shapes. We're going to be going deep. This is an intro. Let's keep it moving. We say words today like men lack chivalry. And when we say that, we're talking about men's respect and their honor for the woman. And the word chivalry is really the word Calvary. And if you think about what went on at Calvary, Jesus was on a cross in between 2 thieves. But this is symbolism. All that is balances scales. And Jesus would be Ma'at, and each thief would be a scale. Calvary is the triple goddesses. in the form of Jesus and the thieves. And it's another form of what you seeing with the Vesica Pisces or the MasterCard symbol. Jesus would be the yoni in the middle, and each thief would be the fish or a yin or a yang, and Jesus would be the S in the middle. It's the triple goddesses. It's this one code that we can't escape. And if you know this, you can forget all the other baloney. Like I said, this connects past, present, and future in all age groups, man, woman, and child. It's a universal code embedded in us that I'm giving to you right now. And normally I wouldn't have to explain it with all this language, but the English language is a spell. So we go back to sacred geometry, and with our third eye, we look at the symbols, and that's how you override, short circuit this English curse. But we say chivalry, and that's cavalry, dealing with the woman. It's just a lot of stuff we got to think about. But again, the bee goddess is the coat of arms. The reason that's important is because the coat of arms is dealing with both arms stretched out, just like Ma'at. And if you go back to a god named Baal Hammon, which became the progenitor of black people, who they call Ham in the Bible, and the homosexuality link is there, is because this goes back to the god Baal Hammon would have a hammer in his hand that he held like this, and this became the hammer of Thor, but it really belonged to the mother goddess, and the hammer of Ma'at, which bangs to keep order and restore balance and chaos. It's a hammer that the mother banged. Ma'at shaped like a capital T, and Ma'at herself, as well as the capital T, is the judge hammer representing law. So when you see the judge with the hammer and the robe, it's Ma'at, balance, the divine feminine keeping the balance. But when you go back to Hammon and the homosexuality, it became one hand up with the hammer in it. The word hammer come from the word Hammon or Ammon. But it all comes from Ma'at. Today you can see it on a baking soda box, arm and hammer. That means I'm ruling you by force with one hand, because the mother have both hands with balance. So in the future I'll go into Baal, Hammon, and Ham and show you how the cult of Amun-Ra, all of the homosexuality started prevailing in the first dynasties in Egypt and overthrew the mother. Because when you say Amun, you're just saying Hammon or Hammon. The H is silent. So Amun is Hammon, Ham, from the Bible, the homo. And it goes back to Menes and Narmer and all of those first pharaohs who swore with their hand up into the cult, because they had to swear with their testicles to give their testimony, and this was homosexuality rituals. All right, but before that, the one hand up was the one hammer of Hammon. But it all goes back to the hammer herself, which is Ma'at. She is the hammer. She is the capital T for truth, okay? But I don't want to get into that now. I'll go into that in a future video. Just research Baal Hammon. To understand what I'm saying, think of a capital T or the judge hammer. When you outline it, you get the triangle or the tent. And this tent can't be casted without those arms spread. Which means right now, the world being ruled off balance under Rahu alone. And Amun is ruling by force with the hammer, and we're a house divided, a house without a foundation. Because remember that Ketu is the body. Ketu is the foundation, the tail. And now when man rule alone without the woman in this man's world with just the head and no tail, no foundation, chaos prevails just like a seesaw on one side. That's why the mother have the arm stretched. That's why the X, okay, is the complete symbol. So now we're gonna hop back over and get back with our etymology, our CRE etymology, dealing with Cre and creation and crescent, crescendo, because there are three things you can do as a human: descend, ascend, and crescend. And I'll get into that in a whole future video, but right now I want to stay with just the C itself, because again, the C is for creation. It's the arch, it's the beginning, it's the A. All right, so we're going to get back to our CRE etymology as it relates to the crescent. So crescendo, a badge or emblem of the Turkish sultans, probably chosen for its suggestion of increase. So figurative sense of Muslim political power is from 1580s. That's deep that the word crescendo was associated with Muslim political power, because most Arab flags are red, black, and white, and red, black, and white are the colors associated with the phases of the moon, and the colors that they're used during moon rituals and goddess rituals. They use red, black, and white candles. This also why the bulls is red, black, and white, dealing with Hathor, and also why Satanism and Satan is dealing with red, black, and white, with the horns and the tail dealing with the divine feminine. The horns just represent the veil that the woman wear in the wedding. All of that stuff that's going over the head and stuff like that with the women, with the horns and the veil, okay, that's going back to the divine feminine. So remember that. And also when you talk about the tail, we're talking about Ketu. When you look at the Middle East, they women walk around just like Ketu. They make their women walk around like Ketu, with the veil covering them up and the long black dress on. And I'm going to get into the H-O root, ho, 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 because when you say horns and when you say hood and when you say all of this stuff, is dealing with that crescent that goes on the top of the head. But I'm not going to deal with that now. Just remember red, black, and white and crescendo dealing with Arabic political power. Remember, the crest, the crescendo is the shield, all going back to the creative energy, the CRE, because when nationhood, when you create a nation, you're based, like I told y'all, all of this stuff is based on the principles of the beehive and how they build the politics in the beehive, and they live by the golden rule. And that's true democracy, unlike we have today. So you can understand ancient nation building just by studying the beehive. And it also proved all of y'all that our ancestors were matriarchs. When you say matriarch, that just means they was unisex. Only the woman can bring forth balance, okay? So there's not like man and woman don't rule. Just the fact that the woman deity represents balance between man and woman. That's called a divine feminine. You only see ma'at balance in the scales. So this crescent moon is also the horns of the devil, but came to be horns because the goddesses used to actually wear this moon crest on their forehead, and they used to carry a trident as balancing scales. And that became the devil with the horns and the trident. And remember, the devil has a tail, and he's the dragon because that woman drags that tail. Remember, the moon drags the star trail or the star tail. So y'all can tie all of this in and see the significance of it, how it relates to cosmology. This is very deep stuff.